This podcast is sponsored by Systems Accountants, a specialist global resourcing solutions company focused exclusively on accounting technology and finance transformation.
Professional rugby players often find it difficult to get support when they are playing club rugby thousands of miles away from their home country. Thankfully, non-profit organisations exist like the Pacific Rugby Players Welfare, which works with individual players in assisting them and their families with their well-being while playing abroad. The Rugby Business Network is joined by the organisation's CEO and former Samoa International Daniel Leo. Dan, thanks for providing us with the opportunity to speak with you.
No, the pleasure's mine. Thanks for having me.
Well, Dan, let's first chat about your playing career. Besides playing in 2 Rugby World Cups for Samoa, you also featured for Australian side the Queensland Reds, as well as in the UK with the London Wasps, Irish and Welsh sides, to mention just a few. Having recently ended your international career in the last 2 years, to be specific, and as a professional in 2016, it must still be fresh in your mind. What are you missing most about it thus far?
Oh, definitely. I think the key thing for most sports people when they retire is that lack of or loss of camaraderie. I've been very privileged to have gone straight from my career into working with in a player welfare role, which is effectively seeing my mates on a day-to-day basis. So I haven't had that struggle that a lot of people do. But I think the other thing, the lack of a challenge, particularly a physical challenge, as a sportsman, you're raised in a culture that everything's done for you. You're spoon-fed your diet, your training program, everything's, you don't really have to think. It's just all looked after these days in a professional sporting environment. And I think, being in reality now and being a director myself of a program, I'm having to take a lot more responsibility on my shoulders than I'm used to as a player. So yeah, it's different challenges.
Great. Well, you've had the experience of playing at home and overseas in the UK during your career. What were some of the highs and lows you experienced during that time?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm really really privileged to have been able to have a 12 or 13 year professional career. The way that it's going, I can't see that the young guys that are coming through having that luxury these days. It's getting more and more physical, more and more confrontational, and also the game's moving on. We're becoming more aware of long-term effects of things like concussion and repeat operations to your body. So I've been very lucky in a lot of ways to have had the career that I have and experienced living across different cultures, different countries. I was raised in New Zealand as a Pacific Islander, raised in New Zealand. Went to school at Auckland Grammar School, which was has produced the most All Blacks in history out of any of the schools. I think it's over 50 players. So that was very the breeding ground that I sort of came through, and then went to the academy in the Super Rugby at the Queensland Reds. Came up through the academy system there, again a different country, different culture. And then I played over here in England and France. I had 4 years in France at Perpignan and Bordeaux. So just really, I guess that puts me in really good stead for what I'm doing now, dealing with players that have come from a whole lot of different backgrounds, but also the different various competitions and experiences that guys would have had. I can relate a lot to that. So it's, again, it's been a great privilege to and making some very good friends along the way. I was particularly privileged to be involved in and as you said, 2 World Cups, but Heineken Cup winning sides at Wasps while I was there, and playing under guys like Lawrence Dallaglio and Josh Lucy and Matt Dawson, Phil Vickery. The list goes on and on. Who the guys that were the big names that were involved in that squad, and really they were guys that I looked up to, and to be able to play alongside those guys and celebrate great victories with them was something that you look back on now and you think, flip, that was a special moment.
Well, you mentioned the word culture, and I'm sure you were able to experience both firsthand while playing at home and over in the UK. What sort of an impact would you say that had on you as a player as well as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on both sides of the coin, really, where culture, I've been a Samoan player, a non-Samoan born player playing for Samoa. So I've seen cultural differences, in that context. I've been an English-speaking player living in France, where again different issues. And I've grown up in a multicultural household where my mother's a European Pākehā New Zealander, we call them, and my dad being a full Samoan, born and raised in Samoa. So I've seen a lot of, the issues there that sometimes the clashes, but, those our differences are what give us the greatest, can be our greatest point of difference, but also our greatest, can bring the greatest joy and colour to our lives as well. So it works both ways. But being able to navigate those challenges of being past and pass that experience onto guys who might be coming from the Pacific, a tiny island in the Pacific to Charles de Gaulle or Heathrow, and feeling like fish out of water, being able to pass that knowledge onto these guys, no matter what their background is massively important. Again, it's a great privilege to be able to do that.
Well, Dan, we often hear the positive and negative stories of professional players speaking about their lives after rugby. What has your transition been like, and did you have any idea as to the career you wanted to pursue upon your retirement?
No, I think this is really sort of took me by surprise. Really, what we're doing now. I was involved in the later years of my career. I was involved in the senior players group for Samoa in 2014 when we decided that we really wanted to force the Samoan Rugby Union's hand to get some financial transparency involved from the organisation. We were one of the only teams that went to the world that fundraised to go to the World Cups in 2007 and 2011, and I was involved in fundraising events where we pushed wheelbarrows down the high street in Samoa, and kids came out, in their numbers, and old people, were putting their bus fares in, into the wheelbarrow as we were pushing it down, and kids were coming and putting all their lunch money these are people with nothing to start on. These were our friends and families, our relatives coming out, and they so much pride in the Samoa national rugby side, and they just wanted to see us get to the World Cup and do well at the World Cup. And it was really, really sad situation. A lot of that money went missing, and that didn't sit well with us as players. And it took us a while to get ourselves organised. But in 2014, a group of us sat together and said, "Look, we can't just. We're coming to the end of our careers ourselves. We've got to leave this. We can't just move on and leave these issues unconfronted." So we decided to put an ultimatum to the Samoan Rugby Union. Either the money turns up, and we're talking about a couple of £1 million here, or we need to see some resignations and bring people into these jobs, running the Samoan Rugby Union that effectively are capable of doing so without being corrupted. So that was really my first experience where player welfare came on the radar. And actually, what I realised going through that process was a key element of player protection was missing. And really, I was having these phone conversations with with World Rugby and with the Prime Minister of Samoa, who also is our president of the Samoan Rugby Union, at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning English time, which was 3 in the afternoon back in Samoa, and I just thought to myself, we shouldn't be, as players, you shouldn't be put out on, you shouldn't be in these situations where you're dealing with it. There needs to be a middle person. So I guess part of the organisation that we're organising now is really, trying to give guys that buffer so that, and myself and sort of, 3 or 4 other senior players were excluded from the World Cup on the back of having these conversations just because we were seen as a threat to the hierarchy. So we sort of said this has been an obvious step really to ensuring that those sorts of scenarios don't take place again.
Well, it's an incredible story, Dan. Well, you're currently now the CEO of the Pacific Rugby Players Welfare. Can you tell us what is its function in the rugby community and what does your role involve?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Pacific Rugby Players Welfare, we wanted to set up an organisation that was of benefit and real influence for the 600 plus Pacific Island players that are currently playing either professional rugby or semi-professional in Europe. We've got about over 200 players from the Premiership down to National 2 who fall into that category in the UK, and then we've got over 400 players in France. Probably close to 200 of those Fijian, and then another, including the Samoan and Tongan players, that again. So a heck of a lot of players, and a lot of them have very, unique issues with either their agents or their clubs that are, again, based on their cultural background and in a lot of terms a lack of education. So we need to fill that gap, and if a player's having a dispute with an agent, they need advice on that, and they need to know that there's impartial advice, that they can have access to lawyers or whatever it might be, something that's going on with their club. But really just really filling that education void with players that we're third world countries, and a lot of the guys, particularly in France, come over from straight out of high school to a foreign country, and just don't have that support network that a lot of people do here. In England, rugby's still seen as is very much present in the private schools. So a lot of people have at least a value, if not a good private school education, at least a value for education, which just isn't there for our players. So it's about supporting them in that sort of role, making sure that they don't get abused and taken advantage of in the process of their rugby careers.
Dan, if I'm not mistaken, the welfare was formed just a year ago. How has the past 12 months been for you?
Yeah, we were launched under kindly launched by the Rugby Players Association, the English Rugby Players Association. Funded us for the first 6 months while we got things up off the ground. And that gave us a really good presence and credibility around the clubs, and obviously that was already there with the players. But moving forward, we've separated, and we decided the players board, which includes high profile Pacific Islanders, Manu Tuolangi, Nathan Hughes, Charles Pirtel has just come on board, Ben Ryan, significant and prominent figures in our communities that are really giving us the direction that we need as an organisation. And one of the key things to come out of that of our last board meeting was that actually we need to be independent of not just the current associations, but the World Rugby umbrella, just so that we can maintain our impartiality for really pushing the Pacific Island agenda. So that comes with a set of challenges. Obviously, we need to be self-funded, so we're currently pushing a commercial partnership drive to really bring on not just people with the deepest pockets, but actually companies and individuals who've got a good fit with our community values. But as we grow, as we build, we really want to establish more of a presence in France. Currently, we're mainly UK based, but we've got 3 player board members who are based in France: Nemani Nadolo, Census Johnston, and Pelu Taile, who's at Bayonne. And really those guys are really driving us for the next steps, which is to get into France and be a benefit to players over there. As I said, probably 2/3 of Pacific Island players who are in Europe are in France. And again, that different set of challenges with the language difficulties and the fact that 70% of Pacific Island players that come to France are from haven't had that stepping stone of New Zealand or Australia, which people like myself have had, which makes it a lot easier.
Well, as you are aware, there are many players' associations that exist across the globe to help professional rugby players with their problems and concerns. Why do you feel there needs to be a separate organisation for Pacific Islanders specifically?
We'll be the only impartial, totally independently funded players association that exists. So we're not aligning ourselves in competition with the other players associations. We're actually totally different in the fact that although we provide, I think the numbers, I think Pacific Islanders provide 20% of all professional players now. We still have minimal presence on at the levels above that. So I think we've got possibly 4 or 5 coaches now. Obviously, Tano Manga, Pat Lamb being 2 of the most high profile. But above that, we don't have any presence on a World Rugby scale, really. And sadly, the one vote that we did have, just to give you an idea, World Rugby Council, all of the tier 1 nations have 2 votes on the council, and the Pacific Islands had 1 vote between the 3 nations. And unfortunately, the director of that of Oceania is actually the Papua New Guinean rep now. The other 3 unions fell out with each other. So it means that we've got, as I said, Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji provide 20% of all professional players, but we've got absolutely no voice around the table, the decision-making table, and that's massively detrimental to not just us on a policy level, but that filters down to to a welfare level as well. And we needed a voice, and the current association. There is actually a Pacific Island Players Association that exists. They're based out of New Zealand. But so they're only, to be a member, you have to be capped for Samoa, Tonga and Fiji. And actually what we're finding over here in Europe is that's only about 30% of the players qualify as Pacific Island player members. So the other 70, we've got guys, who've played for New Zealand, Australia, USA, a couple of guys in Russia and Romania now who don't fall under our umbrella and just aren't represented. So there was an obvious gap there that we needed to be able to stand in for.
Do you have any success stories you could share with us of Pacific Island players who have transitioned well into their team in Europe by using the services your welfare offers?
Yeah, definitely. There's a whole lot of guys who have made successful transitions into rugby. We've just launched our business, the Pacific Rugby Business Network, which is a very similar model to the RBN, but really making keeping it really casual and as unintimidating for the Pacific Island players as possible to be able to make those connections with, your non-traditional rugby work experience opportunities. So, the likes of the RBN and the RPA have got very good links into the city for guys who want to go into business. But actually, what our guys are coming back with, and as it comes back to that education process I spoke about earlier, is that they want more hands-on opportunities to be able to build up skills that that are transferable for them to take back to the Pacific Islands. So we've made good partnerships and as continue to do so. That guys are being able to get work experience through, whether it's through a car manufacturing company, and they can learn to be a technician, so that when they go back to the islands, they could get a job at your Hyundai or Toyota or those sorts of cases. But it's obviously for confidentiality reasons I can't really name names, but be rest assured that there's a lot of good work already been doing, and obviously we're right at the start of this journey, but we just see that as building and getting stronger and stronger as we become more prominent as an organisation.
That's fantastic. Well, Dan, you've actually touched on my next question. You and I are both aware, as are many of the Rugby Business Network members, that the on-field skills and traits professional rugby players possess often allows them to transition into businesses reasonably well after their retirement. But we tend to forget that these players, they come from different countries, they have different beliefs and cultural upbringing. With that in mind, how do you think businesses would benefit from hiring a Pacific Island rugby player to become part of their team?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Pacific Islands have a really good, strong skill sets, and part of my job is really just empowering them to realise how special we actually are. We're very good team members because of the community values that we come from on our islands. It's not about the individual; it's about the greater good of the community and the village. That's something that's instilled in us, so it makes us very good team players. Not just in a sporting context, but in a business context as well. We're also very relatable and work very, very well with people and young people, and that's a passion of ours. We come from big families. And huge communities and those community values transcend into a lot of different areas. So a lot of the Pacific Island guys make really good coaches, not just sporting coaches, but business coaches. But it's about finding that voice and inspiring that confidence and that platform for them to do so. So for anyone that knows Pacific Islands, quite often, they can be the most friendly people that you meet, but also some of the most shy. And it's actually part of our culture that we don't put ourselves forward and don't promote yourself, which actually means that a lot of the players miss out on a lot of opportunities. So a big part of my role really is, as I said, empowering those guys to realise, the potential of actually who they are is, and what sets them aside is what makes them really special.
Brilliant. Finally, Dan, in what ways can businesses get involved with the Pacific Rugby Players Welfare and provide some support? Just
recently launched our website, pacificrugbywelfare.com. I encourage people to get along there. There's a partnerships opportunity package on there, which is downloadable, and also my email address is attached to it as well. And we're open to speaking to anyone really that feels like that they may be able to help improve our player services, or just get alongside us in some way. And really support the initiative that we're doing. So, it's really exciting times.
Exciting indeed. Well, Dan, it's non-profit organisations that look out for the best interest of their players that forms the backbone of rugby. And we at the Rugby Business Network hope that the welfare support you provide to players continues to grow over the coming years.
Thank you very much. Real pleasure to be here. And thanks again.